more women I'm hearing are doing pelvic floor exercises. They're going to pelvic floor therapists and having like work done on the pelvic floor, especially if they've had kids, especially as, things start to drop as they get older. And it feels, and once I actually recently had a friend who went in and had some pelvic floor work, and she started to remember some past traumas. Yes. After she had like, there was scar tissue in there from a rape situation. So there is something about that area for so many women has just been closed off. And is there a way for us to open it energetically back up again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just remember that the pelvic floor is like this hammock of muscles and like technically responsible for so many things like our bladder, our uterus, our rectum, all the things. But it's also like blood flow, right, lubrication, orgasm. I mean, there are so many. And if we've had, we have a strong pelvic floor for a while, but then yes, we hold on trauma. So what pelvic floor therapy is so interesting is that so a lot of women, when they first start having sex, they have something, and this goes on, they'll have like vulvodynia or vaginismus. Have you heard about this? It's very common that women have pain. So the first time they have sex or put a tampon in, they clench. They start clenching and they're tightening. So there's many women who've gone through life, and maybe it was because they had a sexual assault, but maybe it could just be because something happened where they had fear. And the first thing we do is think about it. When something happens, we tense, right? So imagine if you had it could be any age really, but a young age, you start tensing. These pelvic floor muscles then are really, really tight. And so when you go to have sex or put a tampon or just having orgasm or anything, you have now in a patterning of a tightness around it. And then so for a lot of women who don't, and many women don't even have sensitivity, so it's all the pelvic floor. So to your point, it is deeply connected to our nervous system and our emotions. In fact, I would say it's the most important thing. So what I love is that you could go pelvic floor physical therapist. You could also release it on your own. You don't have to go see another doctor. You could just work on breathing and releasing, and there's like dilators you could buy, but I almost feel like you could buy like a jade egg. There's certain practices you could do at home to release the trauma that has happened to your pelvic floor. There is sexological body work where you could go see somebody who actually it's one-way touch where they put their fingers inside of you or they help you guide through. I've had this practice done before when I was in grad school. We had to all do all the things, and a friend of mine in class would work with me where I would have my feet up in stirrups, and I thought I've never had trauma or anything, but you'd start to feel, and she'd go like around our vulva, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and you'd realize that like there'd be areas that have a little bit of pain. I'm like, oh, and then you realize if you apply a little bit pressure to that area, then you just hold it for a minute, the nerve ending starts to unwind around it, and that pleasure goes, that pain can go away. So women have a lot of pain that they don't even know about that are living internally, externally. So there's a lot of different practices that can help release that. So sexological body work, pelvic floor physical therapy, just friggin' dancing and breathing and moving your body. Opening.
Yeah.
This is why we love yoga or we love Pilates. Although again, sometimes that's a little bit more tensing and relaxing still. But I have found yoga to be very helpful, dance to be helpful. Doing Kegels, Kegels are also really helpful. But then believe it or not, I've been doing this so long that Kegels also became controversial because women, I know, Mindy, to tell people to do Kegels, overdoing Kegels, it can create more tension. But at the end of the day, I love a good Kegel exercise. I love using Kegel weights. I used to wear them when I would go to the gym. They're these little balls. If you know about these Kegel balls that you put inside of you, they're like progressive weights. And then I remember I used to go to spin class or go for a hike while they're inside of me. So you're naturally strengthening your pelvic floor. Our pelvic floor is responsible for pleasure and orgasm. And over time, like everything else, it does drop. So that can be really helpful, movement practices. So there's to help with circulation, and then also toys and tools. So vaginal weights, vibrators designed for pelvic floor health, even sitting on things like that chair. Do you know about the Emcella chair? I love this chair. It's by a company called BTL, and like a lot of times your doctor has it, gynecologist office has it, and it's really a game changer for women experiencing urinary incontinence or weakening pelvic floor. It does 22,000 Kegel exercises in 30 minutes. It's using electromagnetic stimulation. You sit on this chair for 20 minutes. 3 times a week is the protocol. And it can be a game changer. It doesn't, there's all these different, you could do it holistically on your own. You could go to see a therapist. You could go sit on a chair. What I love is that we're finally talking about the power of the pelvic floor, and that women have to realize that we talk about our sexual intelligence or sex IQ. It's not just one thing.
Yep.
I think since there's a lot of shame around sex, like what's the one thing I can do? And like, unfortunately, taking your hormones is important, but also releasing any past trauma is important. You know, just it's a foundation of our pleasure for women. It's where the arousal builds, but it's also where it can die.